Modifying your guitar can be a lot of fun. You start off with an idea, everything's working great, but you just want to tweak one or two things here or there, experiment, and hopefully at the end of the experiment, your guitar is playing and sounding better than it did originally. That's not always the case though, and sometimes when you purchase a guitar used, you don't know what work has already been done to it until you actually get the guitar in your hands if you're buying the thing online. Today I'm going to be repairing one of those said guitars that came to me with some problems. I'm going to be highlighting how important not just the pickups are, but the entire electrical circuit. Whoever had this guitar before me was obviously a very big fan of Peter Green, because Peter Green was known for playing pickups out of phase in the middle position, and that's exactly what this thing is. But there's a few kind of problems with this specific job. The guy obviously did it on his own, and as you can be seeing from some of the pictures here, didn't do the cleanest of work. Now, in order to achieve this, really what you have to do, the correct way to do it, is to actually flip the magnet that's inside of the pickup. That requires decoupling the actual pickup cover from the pickup itself, flipping the magnet, putting it all back together again. When you have wax potted pickups, or if your soldering just isn't all that great of a job, it introduces noise and it's really not a great sound, and that's kind of where we're at with this guitar right now. Outside of the problems with the neck pickup, I knew it wasn't the only issue with the guitar. When using the bridge pickup in isolation, anytime I use the volume or the tone controls, it's scratchy. Sometimes I would intermittently lose sound and it would come right back in, or it would just kind of fade off and then fade back in and lose power. And that to me said there's something absolutely up with the wiring harness. I popped off the rear control plate and sure enough, it had also been messed with. So I did the same thing that I do anytime I'm thinking about upgrading a set of pickups, although obviously this is for a different reason. I went to Lollar. I love their pickups. I love them in all my Fender guitars, and I've never actually had a set of their humbuckers in one of my own instruments, so I was excited to give them a try. And when I reached out to them and I told them what was going on, they were fully on board, saying, let's get this thing going. Let's figure out what's going to work for this specific instrument. And it was just so cool of them to want to be a part of this. So they supplied me with a set of pickups. We went with the Lollar Standard Imperial in the bridge and the low-wind in the neck. Lollar also provided me one of their pre-wired harnesses to make sure that this guitar is going to have a clean bill of health when all said and done. The only things we're going to keep intact from the stock electronics are the three-way toggle switch and the output jack. Both of those are operating perfectly as is. Everything else is going to go. Originally, I wanted to add some commentary and film doing the entire repair, but I have this gigantic fan that I use for ventilation, and it basically drowned out all the footage that I have. But it is really important that anytime you're going to do soldering, you do have proper ventilation. You don't want to be breathing this stuff in. One thing I like to do whenever I'm working on electronics is to get my phone out and snap a quick picture while they're still connected, so I know exactly where things are supposed to go. I turned the fan off for a minute because I want to show you the original parts and why some of these problems were occurring. This is a stock bridge pickup. It's perfect. From the factory you could see solder job is good. It's sealed. Pickup housing is perfect. This pickup still works great. This is the neck pickup. This is the one that the casing was removed, and the job that he did to reconnect it here, you never want to see anything that resembles anything like that. Because, I mean, all that excess noise, all that feedback, all that hiss, all that hum, that could be down to something as simple as this. But I hope to get that rewound in the future because these are actually really decent sounding pickups. I've had them in other guitars in the past. And this is the factory wiring harness. The visor used really high quality components here. CTS for the pots, oil and paper, and then you got the same exact kind of UF that we're going to be using on the Lollar Bumblebee caps, .022s. So nothing was really spared as far as cheaping out with these parts, but all it takes is getting in there with a soldering iron, too much heat, too much solder, perhaps a cold solder joint. Maybe you didn't tin your iron, or you didn't tin the wires that are going in, or even just a strand, which I'm kind of suspecting was one of the problems that this guitar was having. The ground wire that comes from the bridge and then mounted to the back of this potentiometer right here, it was frayed, and parts of it look like they might have been coming in contact with something else, and that's just not ideal. So looking forward to replacing all of this with the Lollar stuff. Dude, I'm not a pro, but I'm really proud of this. If this actually works, I'm going to be over the moon. The guitar's back together. We should be good to go. I got the amp on. I'm going to test it out momentarily, make sure everything's working as intended. But the entire process was so straightforward and it was super easy. And I think part of the reason why was because once I had pulled the original harness, I was starting from a blank canvas. I didn't have to worry about covering up other people's mistakes or things like that. And that's a really big pro to buying something like that. If you need to do some work on your instrument, it's not acting up to par. Let's go ahead though, make sure everything works before I talk too much and maybe there's a problem. Bridge pickup. Awesome. Not going to do a full demo today. We're going to save it for, a different sort of video where I really want to go through all the sounds of this guitar with the new pickups and the electronics in it. But there's one thing I do want to test because I just can't help myself. The thing that really got me hooked on Lollar pickups, seriously, I bought a guitar that came with a set of specialties and had one of their 3-way harnesses into it as well. I put on gain, and I'll never forget this because especially with a Telecaster, once you start rolling off the volume and you have like a decent amount of gain on, you're going to lose high end. It just comes with the territory. And with that guitar and those pickups, dude, it didn't. I fell in love with it ever since. So we're going to see if the humbuckers can do the same thing. I'm going to turn on the geisha from Way Huge, try the bitch pickup, see how it goes. It does it. It does it. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. You found it helpful, useful, and entertaining. Feel free to leave a comment down below and love to hear your opinions on this sort of stuff. Thank you to Lollar for making this possible. You guys are the absolute best. And I'll catch y'all on the next video. Take it easy, everybody.